Welcome to the deep dive. Sometimes you look at a topic and it seems, well, maybe a little dry on the surface,
Hmm.
like the lubricants market. You might just picture, I don't know, motor oil or something
Mm.
simple.
Right, just grease and oil.
Exactly. But then you start peeling back the layers and suddenly it's this incredibly complex and honestly really fascinating industry.
It often is. And it tells you so much more.
It really does. It can be a window into the whole global economy.
Mm.
So today, that's what we're doing. We're taking a deep dive using a big market forecast report from cognitive market research on, yes, the global lubricants market.
Uh-huh.
And our mission, really, is to pull out the key bits of info, the important stuff, to help you understand what this maybe seemingly niche market tells us about bigger global trends.
It's a great approach because understanding these, specialist markets, they can act as a really valuable barometer for much wider economic shifts, industrial changes happening all over the world.
Mm.
And this report, it's quite detailed. It goes from 2021 forecasts all the way out to 2033, and it breaks things down globally, regionally, even down to specific countries.
Yeah.
Gives us a really interesting lens.
Okay, fantastic. So let's try and unpack this then. We're talking about huge numbers here, billions of dollars, years of projected growth ahead. What's the core story? What does it all mean if you're trying to get a quick but solid grasp? Maybe let's start with the big picture first. The global view.
Makes sense.
This market is already, well, massive.
Yeah.
Back in 2021, globally, it was valued at $159.148 billion. That's billion with a B.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's not like it's standing still. The forecast sees it hitting $176.9 billion by 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And then, get this, climbing up to $218.565 billion by 2033.
That's substantial.
Yeah. And the overall growth rate, the compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, is pegged at 2.679% for that whole period. I mean, it really is the stuff that keeps industry moving, literally.
It really is. And what's quite fascinating about those numbers isn't just how big they are, but that steady, consistent climb.
It shows, this isn't a boom and bust market. It's growing steadily. There's a real foundational demand there, reflecting industrial activity, transportation, pretty much everything across almost every sector globally.
Okay, so if the global picture is one of just steady, undeniable growth, where's it actually coming from? I mean, what's driving it? And where are the real growth hotspots on the map?
That's where it gets really interesting because the regional breakdowns tell very different stories.
Yeah, the report really does highlight some key areas. Let's maybe pivot then to the Asia-Pacific region first. Because, this seems to be the main engine.
Absolutely. It's the giant in this market.
The numbers are huge. It was already $63.341 billion back in 2021. And the projection, it's set to explode, basically, to $91.295 billion by 2033.
Wow. Almost $100 billion just in APAC.
Right. And crucially, its CAGR, that growth rate, is 3.233%. That's the highest of any region in the whole report.
So, what's going on there? What's specifically driving that massive growth? And, which countries are really pushing the pedal down?
Well, if you look inside APAC, it's like a mini version of global development patterns almost. You've got China, of course, which is just a behemoth.
Sure.
Huge industrial scale means massive demand for lubricants. It's projected to grow to over $27 billion itself. Then there's Japan, a very mature industrial economy, but still a huge contributor, looking at about $21 billion by 2033. Steady growth there, too.
Okay, so the big players are still big.
Exactly. But the really interesting part, I think, is in some of the other, maybe faster-growing markets.
And that's where it gets really exciting, I thought. Look at India. It's surging, right? A CEGR of 4.18%. That's impressive.
That is very strong.
Projected to hit over $16 billion by 2033. You think about all the infrastructure work, the growing middle class, more cars, more factories, all needing lubrication.
Mm-hmm, exactly. It reflects that broader economic story.
But then, and this one really jumped out, Singapore. It shows the sharpest growth rate in the entire report, a CGR of 4.756%.
Wow, almost 5%.
Yeah, which is amazing. And that suggests it's not just about, local cars or factories. It must speak volumes about its role as a massive regional hub for trade, for shipping, manufacturing.
Absolutely. A logistics and processing powerhouse. That makes sense.
And it's not just Singapore. Southeast Asia as a whole, that subregion, is showing really dynamic growth too, a 4.576% CCR. That points to, like, broad regional industrialization picking up steam.
Definitely.
Of course, you've got South Korea, Australia, Taiwan. They're all significant markets, too, contributing billions. But it's those high-growth areas, like India and Singapore and Southeast Asia, that are really changing the shape of the market, it seems.
They really are shifting the center of gravity.
Okay, so let's maybe shift gears now. What about North America? It's obviously a huge, mature market, but it has its own sort of distinct rhythm,
Yeah,
right?
it does.
The numbers show North America growing to almost $60 billion by 2033, but the regional CGR is lower, 2.142%. So still big, but a different kind of growth story compared to APAC.
That's right. And when you look within North America, you see some interesting contrasts again.
Like what?
Well, the U.S. is naturally the largest chart. It's projected to reach nearly $45 billion by 2033. But its growth rate, its CAGR, is more modest. It's 1.93%,
Okay.
which suggests, maybe a more mature market, perhaps growth driven more by higher values, specialty lubricants, or just maintenance cycles, rather than sheer volume increase like you see elsewhere.
Right, makes sense for an established economy.
But then look at Canada. Surprisingly, maybe, it's growing much faster than the U.S. Its CAGR is 3.747%.
Whoa, that's quite a difference, over double the U.S. rate.
It is. It's a significant gap. And it makes you wonder, what's behind that? Could it be shifts in specific industries, maybe something related to the energy sector up there, or perhaps just a different demographic profile for vehicle ownership? It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely something to ponder. And Mexico, where does it sit?
Mexico's growth is closer to the U.S. pace, actually, around 1.87% CAGR, reaching about $7.2 billion by 2033.
Okay, so North America, yeah, it's a big slice of the global pie, but fascinating to see those quite different speeds playing out within the continent itself, almost like different stages of industrial life cycles happening side by side.
Precisely. It's not monolithic at all.
Okay, let's cross the Atlantic then. Europe, what's the picture there? The market's estimated to hit nearly $40 billion by 2033. The overall CGR is 2.072%, so it's slower than the global average again. But Europe is always complex, isn't it? A patchwork.
Absolutely. And the lubricant market numbers really reflect that diversity. It's a fascinating spectrum of growth rates across the continent.
Any standouts?
Well, you've got countries like France, for instance, showing quite healthy growth, a 3.382% CAGR. That suggests some pretty vibrant industrial activity.
Okay, that's strong for Europe.
It is.
Yeah.
But then at the other end, you see countries like Sweden, Switzerland, Luxembourg, all growing really slowly. Their CAGRs are under 1%.
Wow, less than 1%.
Yeah. Sweden's like 0.6%, Switzerland 0.7%, Luxembourg under 0.9%. That points to very mature markets, maybe highly efficient already, perhaps a big shift towards service economies, or maybe very quick adoption of long-life lubricants.
Interesting. What about the big economies like Germany or the UK?
They're growing, but more modestly. Germany's around 1.3%. The UK is similar, about 1.3% too, reflecting their large established industrial bases, probably. Italy, though, is a bit stronger, showing a solid 2.615% CAGR.
Okay, so Italy's doing a bit better there.
Seems so. Maybe more activity in automotive or other key sectors. Spain's growth is more modest again, around 1.2%, and then you have Russia at about 1.5%. So it's really varied. Oh, and the rest of Europe category actually shows decent growth, over 3.2%.
Huh. So pockets of growth, even outside the main named countries. It really does paint that picture, doesn't it? A continent with lots of different economic engines running at very different speeds makes you think if these numbers kind of echo the broader economic news we hear about these places.
I think they often do. It's a good reflection.
All right, next up. South America. This region seems to be showing some real emerging momentum. The report highlights a pretty strong regional CAGR, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. South America comes in at 3.67% overall for the region. It's quite robust, growing from just under $11 billion in 2021 to over $16.5 billion by 2033.
Okay, 3.67%. That's significantly higher than North America or Europe. Where's that energy coming from specifically within South America?
Well, this is another area with some really dynamic stories. You look at Argentina and Colombia, both are showing remarkable growth. Their CAGRs are over 4.3%.
Wow, that's up there with India, almost matching some of the fastest in Asia.
Exactly. Argentina's at 4.385%, Colombia just behind at 4.381%. This isn't just small incremental growth. It really suggests significant expansion happening maybe in agriculture, mining, manufacturing sectors, gaining real traction.
Interesting. And Brazil? is the biggest economy there.
Brazil contributes a lot, of course, given its size. It's growing, too, at a solid 3.279% CAGR, reaching over $5 billion by 2033. But it's those slightly smaller economies, like Argentina and Colombia, that are really posting the eye-catching growth rates and driving that high regional average.
Right.
Peru and Chile show more modest growth by comparison, and the rest of South America segment is also strong, nearly 4% CAGR there too. So it suggests quite a diversified economic development story unfolding across the continent.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a continent where industries are really taking off, and you see it reflected right here in the demand for lubricants. Okay, nearly there. Let's cover the Middle East and Africa. Two distinct regions, but often grouped. The report shows quite different paths for them in this market, right?
Very different, yes.
The Middle East, kind of surprisingly maybe, has the lowest regional KGR of all, just 1.202%, growing from about $5.6 billion to only $6.4 billion by 2033. Why so? Well, sluggish in a region we often think of as energy-rich and rapidly developing.
Yeah, that 1.2% is quite low. And when you look inside, Saudi Arabia, which is the biggest market there, is growing at less than 1%, CAGR about 0.88%. Turkey and Qatar are even slower, around 0.6%.
Less than 1%.
It's really slow. Now, it could reflect a few things. Maybe the market for traditional lubricants is just very mature there. Or perhaps they're adopting high-performance, longer-lasting lubricants faster, which actually reduces overall volume consumed over time.
Ah, okay, efficiency gains.
Could be. Or it might even hint at some economic diversification efforts moving away from traditional heavy industry in parts of the region. The UAE is a bit of an outlier, though. It shows better growth, about 2.3% CAGR, maybe reflecting its role as a major logistics and business hub.
That's a really important point, isn't it? Slow growth isn't always a bad sign. It can tell its own story about maturity or efficiency. Yeah. But let's flip now to Africa, because that presents a much more robust picture.
Yes, definitely.
Africa demonstrates a strong overall CAGR of 3.099%, growing from $3.5 billion in 2021 to over $5.4 billion by 2033. So what's fueling that expansion across the continent?
Africa's numbers are certainly more energetic. You look at key economies like Nigeria and South Africa, they're showing solid growth rates, both around 2.7%, 2.8%.
Okay.
Which points to, ongoing industrialization, significant infrastructure development, a growing middle class maybe, more vehicles, more machinery needed.
Right, the fundamentals of development.
Exactly. And interestingly, the rest of Africa category, so beyond Nigeria and South Africa, also shows very strong growth, about 3.4% AGGR. That indicates pretty broad-based development happening across many other emerging economies on the continent as well.
So a very different phase of development compared to the Middle East, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Lots of catch-up potential being realized.
Absolutely. A different stage in the industrial and economic evolution, definitely.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. We've seen the global lubricants market is growing steadily, consistently. It's on track to be, a massive multi-hundred-billion-dollar industry by 2033. But the really fascinating part is that the story is so different depending on where you look.
Right.
It's this incredible tapestry, isn't it? You've got booming growth in Asia-Pacific, especially India, Singapore, Southeast Asia. You've got strong momentum in parts of South America like Argentina and Colombia. Then more mature, slower growth overall in North America and Europe, but with really interesting variations within those regions, like Canada outpacing the U.S. or France outpacing Germany.
Right.
And then the Middle East growing quite slowly, while Africa shows much more robust expansion. It just hammers home how even something seemingly straightforward, like lubricants, reveals these incredibly diverse economic stories playing out across the globe, billions of dollars moving at very different speeds.
So if you step back, what's the really big takeaway from digging into all these lubricant numbers? I think it's that this data, it's not just about oil and grease, right? It's acting like this hidden indicator, a barometer maybe, of global economic health, of industrial change, of development patterns. And it really pushes you, the listener, to think, okay, what are the specific local reasons, policies, technology shifts, investments driving these really stark differences in growth rates we see? From Singapore's nearly 5% down to Sweden's 0.6%. And maybe looking forward, how will huge trends like, say, the rise of electric vehicles start to reshape this specific market in ways that maybe aren't even fully captured in forecasts ending in 2033.
That's a great point.
It just reminds you that sometimes, the most interesting insights are hiding in the details of things we might normally overlook. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a market that powers nearly everything around us, even if you rarely think about it. We're talking about the global lubricants market.
That's right.
Our insights for this deep dive, they come straight from cognitive market research. And our goal, like always, is to, well, cut through the noise, give you the essential nuggets, and get you really well informed on this dynamic industry.
Yeah, it's easy to overlook, isn't it? But this market is truly foundational. Just think about it. From the smallest gear to the largest industrial turbine, lubricants are these sort of unsung heroes keeping everything running smoothly. Without them, honestly, the gears of industry would literally grind to a halt.
So, when we look at this vital foundational market, what exactly is driving its growth? What are the big engines, you could say, behind its expansion?
Well, one of the most significant forces, really, is rapid industrialization. As emerging economies keep up their swift industrial climb, the demand for lubricants is just skyrocketing. We see it across key sectors like manufacturing, mining, construction. Machinery in these industries, it relies absolutely on high-performance lubricants. You need them to minimize wear and tear and ensure continuous, smooth operation.
Okay, so industrialization is a big one, and I imagine another massive force, really greasing the wheels, so to speak, is the automotive sector.
Absolutely. Expanding automotive sector, that's huge. The data clearly shows a growing number of vehicles worldwide. It's particularly noticeable in places like Asia Pacific and Latin America.
Right.
So as more consumers, invest in personal cars and commercial fleets get bigger, well, the constant need for engine care, regular maintenance cycles, that fuels this sustained demand.
Yeah, the sheer volume of new vehicles is one thing, but it feels like there's maybe a deeper story here about why the automotive sector is such a robust driver. It's not just about more cars, is it? What else are we seeing in the data?
You're spot on. It's far more than just volume. A third and equally crucial driver is the relentless advancement in lubricant formulations and technology itself. Manufacturers are really pushing the boundaries. They're developing these high-performance synthetic lubricants.
Synthetics, right.
Exactly. And they offer benefits like longer oil change intervals, which people like, but also, importantly, reduced environmental impact and superior performance, even under extreme temperatures.
Okay.
And alongside that, there's a really significant shift toward bio-based lubricants. Yeah. This is directly driven by tightening regulatory compliance and, those big global sustainability goals.
Bio-based, so greener options.
Precisely. And this opens up new avenues, especially in environmentally sensitive industries, think agriculture, marine, forestry. What's truly transformative here, if you connect the dots, is that these next-generation lubricants, they aren't just about reducing friction anymore. They're fundamentally shifting how industries approach machinery, longevity, and performance. They're evolving from just a simple consumable into like a high-tech asset, redefining maintenance standards entirely.
Okay, so given all this expansion and pretty impressive innovation, you might think it's all smooth sailing, but as we know, every dynamic industry has its Achilles heel, maybe. What are the major roadblocks or, let's say, sticky situations that the lubricants market is facing right now?
Oh, it certainly faces significant hurdles. Primarily, it's environmental concerns and those increasingly stringent global regulations. Manufacturers are under immense pressure. They need to reduce toxicity, emissions, and, crucially, the reliance on traditional petroleum-based ingredients in their products.
Right.
There's real scrutiny now on the environmental footprint of conventional lubricants. And because of that, there's a growing demand for biodegradable, non-toxic alternatives. And it's gaining real momentum.
That's a powerful point. What does this actually mean for the manufacturers themselves, especially, say, smaller players in the market? Are we seeing anything in the research about how these, financial pressures are impacting things like market consolidation, or maybe how smaller companies are trying to adapt?
Yeah, it definitely creates a considerable financial burden. That's clear. It's especially tough for the smaller and mid-sized producers who, don't have the deep pockets of the larger corporations.
Makes sense.
Compliance with these evolving emission and safety standards, particularly in automotive and industrial sectors, it necessitates costly R&D, plus significant infrastructure upgrades and reformulating existing products. That all costs money.
Yeah, a lot of investment needed.
Exactly. And beyond just the regulations, the market also grapples with inherent sustainability challenges tied to those conventional petroleum-based lubricants. We're talking issues like their limited biodegradability, potential ecological damage.
Right, the classic problems.
Yeah. And while biolubricants certainly offer a greener solution, let's be realistic, they're higher cost and sometimes inconsistent performance in harsh conditions. Well, that still limits their widespread adoption, particularly in, say, heavy-duty or high-temperature applications.
Mm.
So this really highlights a core tension, doesn't it? How do we effectively balance these ambitious environmental goals with the practical demands and, frankly, the economic viability of the industries that rely so heavily on these products?
That's a fascinating challenge, a real balancing act. So, okay, with these hurdles in mind, how exactly is the market adapting? The research must highlight some compelling trends emerging from this pressure.
It does. There's a very strong, really undeniable shift toward eco-friendly and bio-based lubricants.
Yeah.
These products, often derived from things like vegetable oils and synthetic esters, they're rapidly becoming the preferred choice, especially for industries where sustainability and strict regulations are absolutely paramount.
So, where regulations bite, green options thrive.
Pretty much. Their lower toxicity and reduced environmental impact make them ideal for applications like marine vessels, agricultural equipment, forestry machinery,
Yeah.
basically anywhere operating in ecologically sensitive zones.
Okay, so greener is definitely a big trend. But beyond that, there's another massive wave of innovation sweeping through this market, isn't there? We're talking about the digital revolution touching everything, it seems, even lubricants.
Absolutely. Digitalization is fundamentally reshaping how lubrication systems are managed. It's quite amazing, actually. We're seeing the widespread integration of IoT sensors
IoT, okay.
combined with powerful AI-powered analytics. What this means is you get intelligent lubrication systems, systems capable of real-time monitoring, predictive maintenance.
Predictive, so knowing before it breaks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Highly optimized, condition-based servicing. What's truly fascinating here is how this technology is essentially turning the lubricant itself into a kind of data-rich asset.
Huh, interesting way to put it.
Yeah, it's shifting maintenance from just a reactive necessity, fix it when it breaks, to a proactive, even predictive science. It gives companies this unprecedented real-time visibility and control over their machinery. Ultimately, this extends equipment lifespan and dramatically reduces that costly downtime.
Wow. Okay, so to sort of wrap up this deep dive then, it's abundantly clear the global lubricants market is, well, far more complex and dynamic than it might initially appear on the surface. It seems to stand right at this crucial intersection of industrial growth on one side and environmental innovation on the other, with things like sustainability, efficiency, and this smart technology really driving its future trajectory.
That's a great summary, and maybe stepping back just a bit to consider the broader implications.
Yeah.
This evolution in lubricants, going from simple petroleum products to these intelligent, eco-friendly solutions, it really mirrors a larger industrial transformation, I think. It's a move where efficiency, sustainability, and technological integration are no longer competing priorities or trade-offs. They're becoming truly integrated goals. And, well, it raises a compelling question for the future, doesn't it? As our world keeps pushing for ever higher performance from its machinery, how will this constant demand continue to shape the very definition of high performance when it comes to lubricants? Especially when you have to balance that against the escalating imperative for cleaner, more responsible operations.
That's a great question to leave us with. A lot to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you, our listeners, now feel a little more well-oiled, you could say, with knowledge on this vital and actually quite fascinating industry.